Hi everyone, my name is Willem.
And I'm Tim.
And this is another episode of Hear Me Out Pitch. First off, I'm going to go right into saying this. Rest in peace, James Earl Jones. It's kind of a sad time for the nerd community, and honestly, anyone who really did enjoy plays. James Earl Jones is a wonderful part of many of our lives for anyone who enjoyed Star Wars. He was the iconic voice of that wonderful character. Not really wonderful character, but he had a wonderful voice. And of course Mufasa, and the old not the groundskeeper, but the very kind blind man from The Sandlot, and so many other movies that I loved. And I know Tim's kind of feeling it, so I'll let him say a few words.
There's not much to say. He lived an amazing life. He did his best to give us amazing moments on screen, and I just want to, I know he's gone, but I want to say thanks to him.
Aww.
And thank you to his family for supporting him and helping him get to where he was. It is a very sad time, and in the last few years we've lost many of the Star Wars cast. And you know what? They're all just partying it up in heaven, you know? Carrie's probably yelling at him for
blowing up Alderaan.
Going out after her.
Yeah. You know, who would have known that a young man with a terrible stutter that caused him to never want to speak would become one of the most iconic voices in this day and age. So, Thank you, James Earl Jones, and we're going to keep enjoying your movie moments. It's selfish of us to want more, but it's okay.
I've literally spent all day today just watching Star Wars because of nostalgia, and I feel depressed.
It's, I knew that day was coming, and it happens with older actors, and I even found a scene of him and Robin Williams in one of Robin Williams' last movies, and he has a stutter. He's just this old man. Robin Williams comes in. He thinks that he has 90 seconds to live. He's just mean. He's like the worst Karl Muntz ever. He's just mean. And he comes in. He thinks he has 90 seconds to live, so he wants to get a camcorder. And he walks in, and it's James Earl Jones. Like, I need a camcorder. I need it fast. And James is just sitting down. And he's like, can't get up. Tries to get up. Can't get up. Finally stands up slowly. What do you need? I was dying because I knew that he had a stutter, so I was just dying that he was able just to mimic something that was probably terrible for him to deal with growing up. So it was just wonderful. And I know we could go on. This episode is not going to be about James Earl Jones, but we just want to take the beginning of it since yesterday was the day he passed. We just want to give a little nod to him since it's at the forefront of our minds. So, yeah. That being said, though, time to move on to happier stuff. So, Tim, I got two options for you today. We're going to kind of go out the flow with it kind of day, because that's where me and you are at today. I can see it in your eyes, and you could probably see it in my eyes. So on one hand, on one hand, we have original idea, or the other, we have a sequel. And not a certain Marvel character, not that one, but the other one. And you kind of read a little bit of both.
Oh.
So I'll give it to you. Original or fun little sequel?
You know what? Let's do an original. I think my wife will want to have her input for the sequel.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And we're going to keep you in the dark for said sequel.
We are. And I want to say a big thank you for my sister for sharing that idea because she wanted us to share it. So it'll come up. And wow.
Silence my phone
wow. Go sit in the timeout corner.
Okay.
Yeah, you think about what you did. He is in the corner right now as we speak. And he had to bring a microphone with him. How's it over there?
It's cold.
It's cold and dark. All right. So we're going to do another one of Willem's Strange. Just one of these fun dreams. We'll see what happens. And where did my... lost. I lost it. This will be some fun editing out. All right. So another fever dream for Willem. Last time we did this, we actually came up with that very cute story, Liam the Pirate. I absolutely love that story. Really fast, really cute. And I would hope that you all would go and listen to it because it was just cute. I was very surprised where we took it. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. I had a weird dream. It was like Tuck Everlasting, but instead of finding a family that couldn't die in age, this family was a family of very wealthy people who basically respawned. Much like the characters who cannot die in Shadows of What Was Lost by James Islington, which is one of my favorite time travel books. These family members can die and they regenerate in a random room in their home. This room is this shrine, which in this mansion looks just like a very fancy bathroom. It has a shower, toilet, bath, all the necessities one needs when one respawns and is brought back to life. Because maybe you died a gruesome way or something. It's messy. Who knows? I don't know. There are wicked and cruel family members and some who are kind. In my dream, I was fighting the mean and cruel grandsons. Due to something from a fight, a selfish act by one of the defeated grandsons, the spirit of the respawning void had come forward and told us the spawn point had been corrupted and now there were 5 spots. There were 5 of us fighting at the time. 2 grandsons, myself, the father of the boys, and the unmarried uncle who had a grudge against his brother, the father. 1 spot would have eternal life and you would never age or die. 3 spots that would be completely normal and you can no longer regenerate, and the final spot would be absolute blackness. And that's when I woke up. It was really weird.
Mm-hmm. So that is very, very weird.
It was, and my character, I'm going to just say my character in this dream, I was like visiting this mansion and I had stumbled into this room. I don't know if I was embarrassed by these grandsons. I was like dancing with one of the granddaughters and her brothers or cousins, whatever they were, came and did something. They spilt wine on me or something like that. I had to go change and I found this, what I thought was a waste room and or a changing room, and then I got somehow mixed in their regeneration. One of the family members was regenerating and it caught me in it, and boom bam, I became tainted by it. So it was weird, and yeah, I don't know, that was my dream, Tim.
Weird dream.
It was a weird dream. I woke up, I was like, oh my gosh. And the uncle, I will say this, the uncle was played by the actor who plays Voldemort. I can't remember his name at the moment. Mm-hmm. And he was the uncle, and he had a crutch, like a cane, a crutch, and he had a bad leg. Because even though you could come back to life, it doesn't mean that you can properly regenerate. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. If you were like broken and beaten and you regenerate, you might come back a vegetable. If that makes sense. So at least that was what, or he was like this before the family got there. I don't know, because there were old members of this family and they did die. It's just that if they just got shot in the head, they would regenerate. But when they died of old age or natural like causes, like if their body just shut down, that was it. But if they were stopped abruptly, they would regenerate. So if they jumped off a bridge, if they died in a sword fight,
basically immortal until old age catches up.
Yeah, but they doesn't mean that they didn't try to live longer. They mean they have there was a great grandparent of something like that. I just remember there was an old person like, throw him off the bridge and see if he lives again. And they threw me off a bridge, and I woke up in the thing, and they were all watching, and they were like, oh, how did you manage this? Because it was just passed down from their family. It was weird. So, no. All right. I don't know if you want to change anything entirely, or if it's just or if we kind of go just really strongly with this dream. I don't know. What are you thinking? What's like the first images popping in your head?
Well, the last few weeks, last month actually, I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2.
Yeah, you have.
I have. Our buddy Ethan got me into it.
Hi, Ethan.
And it's been suggested to me by several people, including my probably my oldest friend Jonathan. Oldest as in we've been best friends the longest out of all my friends. And he suggested that I start playing it a while ago. He said I would love the story, and here we are now. And yes, I love the story, but like the main mechanic of the game is respawning. For those of you unfamiliar with this game, essentially you have what is called a ghost. It is a little robotic object that is sentient, and it brings you back to life when you die, over and over and over, infinitely, until either the ghost dies or it chooses to not revive you. And there's a lot of really intense moments in the game where someone loses their ghost, where the ghost is destroyed, and they become quote unquote mortal again. And so that's kind of the mechanic that's kind of coming to my mind. I'm curious if we did, since we're doing the I'm just gonna call it respawning because that's what it is. Since we're doing the respawning, I want to know the mechanic behind it. We need to kind of explain. Is it a hereditary thing? Is it magical based on the house? Is it based on an object? Is it based on a feature that everybody has?
I'm guessing what I got it from subconsciously is the book I mentioned, Shadows of What Was Once Lost. Wonderful series. I recommend it to everyone, but there are a group of immortals. There are like 5 of them. This is, if Eternals would have been good, I would have wanted to be like these 5. Mm-hmm. Because they are awesome and they get torn apart just like the Celestial. This book is what the Eternals wanted to be. And I'll just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. I just love these characters, and I really hope this author makes, actually I think he did make another book. Anyway, that's beyond the point. They are tethered. They were chosen, and they became tethered to this ancient forge. That's the best way I can. In the dream, there was this room this bathroom had like a fancy glowing lantern, like a blue lantern, like a blue torch, and it just looked big, and that was kind of the opening. And I believe there was like I remember it was just a dream, but I just remember blue flame, and it looked like a big forge, just like how it was described in this book. So I imagine that this washroom, like they would stumble out of this forge, and like I can imagine, I've imagined after the dream, or at least there might have been a part of the dream. Again, it's kind of hard to remember dreams at the bat, but I'm fairly certain either myself or one of the family members, like they tormented me, or they were showing what the curse does. They shot one of the grandkids, like one of the granddaughters, and threw her body in the mud, or they just tossed her off the edge. And I just remember someone comes out of the forge bloody, muddy, and like, and they just look at you exhausted. And that's when I was like, oh, that's why the okay. So I don't know how this family became connected to it. Is it like so in Tuck Everlasting, another fun book? This family just discovered this tree, and they're from the 1850s or something like that. They're just from early America, and they were pioneering, and they were stumbling upon, and they were just going around, and they found this tree, and they just need water, and they found a little spring under this tree, and they gave it to their horse. The horse got shot a couple days later from a stray bullet, got up and lived. Usually put a horse down if it gets shot like that. If it gets, especially when it shatters its leg, it was fine. Limped it off. And they realized that one of the older sons, he fell in an accident and he got up. They don't die. They, even in the movie, they get shot a few times. They just stand back up and you're like, jeez. So when they drink this from this little spring, they just keep living. And at the end of the movie, the girl that he was kind of in love with refused his gift, and he goes and visits her grave at the end of the movie in like 2004 when this movie came out. So something like that. We can make it similar to that. I don't know if you have any ideas or what thoughts are coming in your head. I just imagine this family has had it for a fat minute, and I just stumbled upon it and got into it, and whether they are planning something vile, whether they're planning something mean. I just remember we were flinging ourselves across the city willy-nilly. Remember what they had, but I'm just chasing these two grandsons, and I tackle one in the air, and we both land, and we both come out stumbling out of the forge and just kept fighting. It was weird. So, I don't know.
Okay. Maybe.
Title of the movie is Forged in Flame.
Forged. Not to be confused with Forged in Fire.
No. Forged in Flame.
I was actually thinking, call it Soulforged.
Ooh. Oh. Could be their souls, so you think their souls are tethered?
Here's where my mind...
Hear me out, pitch.
Here's where my mind is going.
All right.
We can just say, we can have a little backstory that these fey creatures, very mystical creatures, created a forge called the Soulforged that would, maybe some great mortal did a deed for them, saved them, and he commissioned them to create something that will allow him to live forever. And so they created a soul forge in the middle of this forest for him, and then they left. And then he built his mansion around this soul forge. And so maybe this soul forge is kind of in the basement of it, in like the and that's where that washroom is. It's in the basement.
Or there's a staircase from it. So maybe it started off as a forge. Maybe not that he'd live forever, but that he could make special weapons. And maybe these weapons were made and he was able to, I don't want to say impart his soul into them, but kind of. Like, so he started stretching out his soul in a way, but then maybe he had maybe that could be a twist at the end, is the family's been thinking that they were descendants of the forger, but really they're descendants of like a twisted brother, and he killed his brother, and because he realized that he could fuse himself. I don't know. Never mind. Yeah, maybe just to live longer.
I'm thinking it's just something that would let him live forever. And this soul forge, basically, in order to live forever, you have to use the soul forge and tie your spirit to the forge. So when you die, your soul is pulled back from wherever you died from, pulled back to the forge.
So you know what that means? There has to be just dozens of weapons, swords, axes all around this mansion. And you gotta have an epic fight of just, you just see two of the grandsons fighting. One lobs the other's arm off, and he looks down. Well, now, and he cuts his head off, and he disappears into a mist. So, Because if you don't, it's stuck like that.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, how would we make... Oh, no. Nope.
I don't know. I
think we should probably be thinking of questions of what. So I like that.
I think...
What's a question? Like, what is a question you would ask for this? Like, what's a question if you were watching this movie, what would be questions in your mind?
What is the purpose of the family? What do they do now that they're immortal? Are they a crime syndicate? Are they basically protectors of the realm?
So do they
just try to mind their own business, kind of like the Munsters, or
do we want them to live longer then?
Maybe not. Maybe with the soul forging, their lives are extended, but with every death, that time is shortened a few years. Mm-hmm. So they're given an allotment of extra years beyond the natural.
Ooh. It starts... Have you played Senua's Sacrifice?
No.
Okay. In this... Man, you guys are probably like, wow, because usually Tim's the one that goes off and references stuff. You're the big reference guy, and I've always loved that. But today I am like the reference king. Senua's Sacrifice. Senua's Sacrifice is about a woman's journey to retrieve her beloved soul, and it was a game on the PlayStation and a few other things, but point being, you get infected, and every time you die in the game, you'll be respawned, and you'll literally see this marking crawl up, and if it gets to her head, it crawls up her arm, and if it gets to her head, you die, game over. You have to start over completely.
I kind of like that idea.
I never did it though, but it would also ask you like, hey, you're kind of dying a lot. Do you want to go to an easier mode so you won't start the game over? And I did. But anyway, I don't want to start the game over, okay? I think I did. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure I did because I don't think I'm that awesome.
I'm stubborn enough when it comes to video games that I would have kept going and restarted as many times as it took.
No.
I'm not Nathan. I'm not you. Okay.
Nathan doesn't live.
That man. There are things that I will be that stubborn with, but.
So with this though.
Yes. Anyway. Here's kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe they're granted an extra 100 years. Straight 100 years extra on top of their life that they can live. If they live all the way through, they will live whatever they were going to live. The standard back then was like 60 or 70 years old. Mm-hmm. Plus 100. And then with today's advances, maybe that would be increased to 200 total instead of 170.
Something like that. I do not mind them pulling I don't mind it being like a Tuck Everlasting or these these eternal characters. I don't mind if this family has slowly turned. Maybe we think they're benevolent, and then some members aren't. Like,
I mean, you would have that. We'll take a look at my family, for example. For any of you listening, please don't take offense. This is just what I would imagine our family structure would be. Most of us we'd be fine. We would live normal. We would live our normal lives. A few of us might play it a little extra risky because we can. But generally speaking, I feel like my dad especially would probably just end up working at the hospital longer, never retire. He'd be able to pull off some really crazy things because of the amount of time that he'd spent there. But then there would be some of us, Josh, I'm talking about you, and you know what I mean. I feel like a couple of us would probably try to manipulate the system a little bit, work the system. And maybe not go renegade, but go a little bit renegade. Not as extreme as some of the movies I've seen would suggest. And I know this is a sore spot for a lot of people, but take Twilight, for example.
They have snuck into my head in the past 5 minutes. I'm like, oh
same.
Crap, are we the Cullens? Are we making the Cullen family?
I'm taking inspiration from Twilight. You take a look at the Cullens. There are some of them that are the benevolent. They just kind of want to mind their own business. They want to live their own life as best a vampire can. But then there's others who are power hungry and want to rule the world, kind of thing.
These people are not vampires. They just don't.
They don't sparkle in the sun.
No.
I think we could have a similar situation, maybe not as intense as the Cullens. Maybe most of this family are the benevolent. They just want to do as much good in the world as they can. Maybe that was the wish that granted the Forge life, quote unquote.
So we have to make it. You know what story I immediately thought of? We can do a fun play on I don't remember where the origin of this story is, but the man who loses his axe in the river and a spirit. So this will be fun to share with you guys. So there is a tale, I forget where it hails from. There's a tale of a man who loses his axe, and he basically has a lady in the water moment. Lady of the lake moment. He loses his axe, whether in frustration or whether he loses on accident. It is his source of income. It is his source to, retrieve logs for whether it was wood burning, whether it was coal making, whatever it was for. He needed that axe to live for his family. He loses his axe in the water, and this fairy appears and says, "What have you lost, worker?" He goes, "I've lost my axe." And she goes down into the water, and she comes back out, and she's holding an axe of gold and an axe of silver, pure silver and pure gold. And she goes, "Which one of these is yours?" And he looks at both of them, and he tearfully says, "None of these are mine. I had a plain old axe." And she smiles and proceeds to pull out his normal axe and give him all three and says, "Thank you for being honest, and thank you for being kind." So we could do something like that, like a story of a kind forge master who maybe he gives...
Oh, the honest woodcutter.
Yeah, yes.
It's one of Aesop's fables.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where's Aesop from?
Aesop's fables were created by a slave storyteller in ancient Greece.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Between 600 and 560 BC.
I think they've spread all over, because I swear I heard that someone was saying... I heard it from, like, In Between the Lions or Sesame Street or something when I was a little boy. No, it was... I don't remember. Point being...
Book of Virtues, maybe? I'm glad you know what the
one with the bison.
Yep.
Voiced by Gantu.
Uh-huh.
Yep. That was it. It was the Book of Virtues. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow. We're going on tangents, but honestly, these tangents coincide with this, so it's fine, everybody. We're fine. We're having a great time. It's only been half an hour.
Great time.
We're having a great time. You're all loving this. Oh, we love you.
Good vibes coming your way. Nothing you can do about it.
Nothing. So, I feel like we could do something like that. He rescues... I'm imagining...
Maybe the... Okay. Idea.
I want an evil
man,
brother.
We can do that. Old man at the beginning has... He's a doctor.
Oh.
And, he knows how to care for people. Comes across maybe this elf... that maybe one of his sons, he has a few sons. One of the sons is, maybe the head of the mob or something, trying to get rid of the crazy, weird, mystical stuff. And so the son injures this elf, or a fairy, maybe a fairy, keep it.
I really want... My only request is, since we've been talking about a forge, I want it to be a blacksmith. I want this to be a family of... And I thought you'd appreciate that with all of your love of swords. I really think like a sword master. Like, I'm talking like... So when...
I'm imagining thematically... if he's a doctor, a surgeon, who goes out of his way to save a creature of the forest that has been injured, that he knows is being hunted by his son, and he saves it, then maybe the other elves or fairies grant him that wish, whatever it is, and he says he wishes for the ability to protect the creatures of the forest and others, to protect people for longer than he would naturally live.
So the only reason why I just don't like Doctor, because now since we've mentioned the Cullens, all I imagine is the dad. That's all I imagine is their albino looking dad.
That's not what I'm imagining, and this kind of hurts my soul a little bit, but I'm imagining John Hurt.
Oh,
like an older man.
Oh,
John Hurt, long beard. He's toward the end of his life.
Was John Hurt a doctor?
He was the doctor.
He was the war doctor.
He was the war doctor. Yeah. I imagine an older man.
Okay,
That's what I've been imagining.
I don't mind an old man. I am fine with an old man in the beginning. I wouldn't mind it being. Okay, so maybe not. So, what does your mind's eye see when you're imagining the place of the beginning of this story? Him rescuing the Fae.
I imagine just a village somewhere, probably England, because that would make sense, because that area of the world, their mythology, it would fit, kind of the more Fae, kind of Celtic kind of thing. Just a small village with a big forest that over time turns into a bustling city with. On the outskirts of the city is this big mansion that is walled off, that has a very big forest as the backyard.
Ooh.
It's all fenced, like walled in.
Ooh, okay.
For miles and miles.
My brain just went off ADHD clock hours. Here we go. Here's what I'm imagining. Old man, I still want a Forge Master, but hear me out. And I know y'all are like, you guys have to actually get onto the good stuff. No, we like world building.
No, this is storytelling. This is
how
it works.
You guys haven't had a good solid hour-and-a-half episode in a minute, so shut up. I'm just kidding. Mm-hmm. That was mean. I love you all so much. But I'm imagining Castle, England. The main character, we're going to start following with the aged, very not capable anymore, Smith.
Okay.
He's favored by the king, but he is aging. He is done. You can see, and I would imagine like a taller man, you can see the muscles are sagging, like he is, you see him like trying to swing that hammer and try to really forge, and
he's fit but old.
He's fit but old, but it's just not the same. You see that he's failing, everyone's kind of whispering. So point being, that's kind of who I imagine in the beginning. And I imagine just this, he breaks in one night, like he hears a noise and he comes in and he's holding like a club or he's holding his tools and he's like, hello? And I imagine he really does sound old and nervous. He's like, hello? And he's been very lucky to have the king treat him, but his body's breaking and he's like, is anyone there? A Fae child, a small Fae child. We don't know that she is Fae, but we see a wounded trap, like this wounded child that looks like it fell into a trap, like some fox trap or something of the other. And I think that, and it's a raining night and she's soaked to the bone. And all I imagine is that he looks at her and goes, dear child, let's warm yourself up. And he just and he starts the forge, and as the room starts to light up, the little child is walking around and sees all of his amazing tools that he's made, scepters he's made for the king, wonderful stuff, artwork, and he finds, a statue of his family. I'm thinking Klaus moment here. Lost his family.
Okay.
Sort of thing. And she kind of starts asking questions. He lost his family due to war, so he always tried to want to make the best weapons. And he says, if I could have anything, it would be to have a family and raise them right. And the young Fae child kind of smiles. She kind of gets a little bigger. I'm imagining like one of the fairies from the lakes in Zelda. And she blesses him to, and the forge turns blue. The flame turns blue in the forge. And you see him slowly, as he's like kind of explaining. And I imagine he was kind of passing the time because he can't just sit still. So he can't tell this child anything. So he's kind of starting to like twiddle with something. And you see as he's hitting this piece of metal, he's starting to get younger and younger. The flame starts turning blue, and he looks down, he realizes he's young again, and she goes, for this act of kindness, enjoy this gift to have a proper family. Make a proper family and protect them, and use this forge, and you'll find that it has special properties to help you live a very long life. So I think just this, and it became a Soulforged, and that's what kind of helps him. And she's kind of saying that you keep this flame. Ooh, we can have it that if the flame is always lit, that's what keeps us going, sort of thing.
Sure, and we could, throughout the movie, we could have the Forge Smith.
Mm-hmm. So you want him to still be alive?
I think so. Maybe we don't reveal that he's still alive.
Because I want him to have. So maybe that's the sad thing, is he just wanted a happy family, but he. Okay, so that's how I think. I just think the little kindness, you see the forge turn blue, and you see that this smithy just keeps living, and he surpasses these kingdoms, and it would be cool that this castle that he lived in, you see it kind of a time lapse, it kind of crumples down, but you see the blue light stay. You see something like in the little building it's in stay. You see that everything else, and we can have narration talking about slowly over time. The man remarried, but he didn't realize how long he would live. And how would we show? So, do you like the idea of them respawning, or are we kind of? Do you want?
I do think the idea of respawning is good, and maybe we make it very clear at some point in the movie, maybe with our main character starting the process to respawn. Someone explains, every time you die, it's going to take, you get an extra 100 years to live. Every time you die, cuts. Do we want it, maybe we have it 5 years or 10 years? One of the two.
I'm honestly voting for, so how far in the future have we gotten then? So that's my question.
I think we should keep it right now. And then we have it.
So how is the smithy still alive then? Or are you saying that
I'm saying
you live, but you, like, every time you lose. So basically you can die 100 times, essentially. Like, let's just
20 times. I think 5 years. Every time you die, you lose 5 of your 100 years of life.
So can you essentially live forever though?
No.
Okay, so
you
how
get
would
an extra 100 years, and as you're aging, you know, as you're living your normal life, basically it just adds that.
Maybe it's 100 lifetimes. Because
100 lifetimes is a long time.
But that gives you enough buffer to regenerate. I don't know how. See, that's kind of the hard thing. Is how do we
make it 200 years? We make 200 years, and every time you die and respawn, it takes 5 of your years that you have left.
Maybe when you die, you just lose sanity. So maybe people keep living, and that's why some people in the Forge are some of the old family members who are absolutely, like, you don't
just
go down there.
Senile.
And they're insane. They're like basically zombies. They're dead. They look down there and you see like they're ooh, that could be kind of a horror movie moment. We don't have to go there, but you guys can just think of shriveled up. What's the monster that attacks Beowulf? That's what I'm thinking. Grendel. I'm thinking they all turn into Grendels in the end. That sort of thing. So how does one sever the connection, or does it not? So do we want the ending of the movie that the family light is extinguished?
I think at the end of the movie, yeah. We can have the main character see maybe it's three big problems with the Forge. One is all the old people that they live forever, but every time they've died a lot. They've lived for long enough that their minds are just shattered. You can't really live life when you know that you're immortal. Part of the fun here's just a
philosophy with Tim.
Philosophy question for all of you. If you knew that you could live forever, what would you do? How long would it take you? What would you do with the rest of eternity?
I don't know.
Like, if I knew that I would live forever, I could never die from this point on, I don't know.
To be fair, Tim, we are both Christian who believe that
is
we will
true.
But we
not
won't go into
this
that.
lifetime.
It's
for
different.
us. Our religious views are a little different from the question that I'm posing.
That's true. I'm just saying it always makes me kind of chuckle though when I hear I could never live forever. I'm like, but you believe it? Yeah.
With the way that my mind works right now, the way that I see the world, no, I couldn't.
You would like to be perfected.
I would like my mind to be perfected.
You would want to be like Deadpool and Wolverine, who
exactly
constantly feel all the. Yeah, I know, I get you. We won't go weird. Everyone, this is the end of that conversation. Don't worry, we're not going to get into weird theological questions, but we're just trying to really get this story.
The point of my question is, if you knew you had eternity to live, you would do everything you possibly could right away because you're like, I can do this for eternity. But then after a few hundred years, you've done everything. You've been to every country. You've met every person you would ever want to meet. You have, achieved all of the knowledge you could ever want. You've played all the video games you ever wanted, read every book. After 300-400 years, you've done all of it.
Even though the tower is huge, you're just Rapunzel stuck in that castle at some point.
Yeah, pretty much.
At some point,
from that point on, you've done everything. Now what?
But how long does that take, Tim? This is a big. We might
true.
joke about how small this world is, but it's a lot.
It is a big world.
You could live hundreds of lifetimes. You could walk around and start new lives, new families.
At what point does it get monotonous? At one point, does it become the same thing over and over?
So how does one? Here's my follow-up question. Because I imagine that some people wanted to bring families. Mm-hmm. How does one? So you definitely know there are some men and women who have they've brought people in, and then they'll have long lives with them, but then they're stuck. Because it's well, my marriage with you is done. I don't feel a connection with you after 300 years, or even 50.
I mean, you look at Eternals.
Yeah.
Right? There was.
I can't think of their names.
I don't remember either.
But
between the main girl and what's his bucket?
Icarus.
Icarus,
and I can't think of it. Dang it. And he flew into the sun. I thought that was so poetic.
Yep.
Anyway, my question to that was, how do we tie new people? Is it just their families? Is it like Catholics and they baptize the baby in fire? Like what?
I think it is through blood or marriage.
I'm not saying Catholics baptize babies in fire and blood. Sorry. I don't know if that came out weird. I want to make that very clear. I just imagined how in the Catholic Church, when babies are born, babies are baptized. Mm-hmm. And so I imagine, do they do that? Is it
I'm imagining it's when you're born, if your parents are tied to the Forge, you are automatically tied to the Forge. And when you're married, you are then tied to the Forge. Kind of like that. And it's just kept in the family.
Because it's all about family.
Thanks, Dom.
Keep it in the family.
But maybe
like a blood oath.
No,
when they get married,
I think the Forge itself, at this point they've built kind of a cathedral around it so that they could have the wedding ceremonies in front of the Forge.
Oh no, they jump in it.
No.
No?
No.
Oh,
I
man,
think
I
it's
totally...
more like a ceremonial thing. And like while they're being married, the forge kind of the blue flames reach out and kind of grab them and hug them.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego moment. Sorry, I know I'm bringing up Bible stuff, but that's exactly... I imagine they like step into the forge, and while they're holding the family member that has it, that is how... And so when they go in this forge, you see them kind of burn up a little bit, but then... And it starts kind of licking at them, but then you see that they start healing. Does that make sense? So I won't make it like too graphic.
I want to keep like, this at most PG-13.
I'm gonna imagine like we are skirting the line of our with violence, because I do imagine, because I want to see like, I mean,
Lord of the Rings level of violence. That's what I'm again
that was so for some of those scenes. I'm like, oh, but it's just orcs. It's okay if you see their organs.
Well, and the blood was black, not red.
Oh gosh,
if it was red,
that is such a lame. I'm woof. Sorry, that's a Willem rant of mine that I've been saying for years, and that's fine. Point being, so this is the process. So how does our main character stumble upon? I imagine that. So we're saying modern days. This family has grown into big things. These people go across the world. They are building income. Some of them have maybe distanced themselves. And you know what's crazy though is I imagine that this character stumbles in, because if it's not the wedding ceremony, at least you're going in and someone else is getting reborn in a way. So when you're married, your spouse is getting eaten by the flame and they're basically getting reborn, and then you're in there with them, and that's how it happens. So I imagine that this character somehow,
maybe it's like a transfer. So you both die and are reborn, and when you get married, you are being reborn with your partner.
So that's why the wedding, I imagine, we don't see it, but I do imagine that the forge, like they're in the forge, and all of a sudden, and it's like it's gotten bigger.
The family crest is a phoenix.
Ooh, but now it's gonna look like I just imagine Farmington phoenixes, because they have a blue. It just makes me laugh because I'm like, heh. This episode is brought to you by the Farmington Phoenixes of Utah.
No, it's not.
It is not.
No, it's not.
For all of you Phoenixes out there, cool for you. You have a cool symbol, I guess. Anyway, but I imagine that I want to show one wedding, and it shows them holding hands, and then you see and it's kind of, we see them kind of taking oaths, and we see everyone, like the family else is watching, and they look at the woman or man that's getting married to the family, and they go, well, brace yourself. What? This is going to hurt. And they press and they pull a lever, and it shuts, and you hear screaming. And then when they open it back up, you see both of them, and they're all like holding robes. And when they come out stumbling, they put robes across them. Was that so bad? And they're like, what'd you do to me? And that's how we could probably see an explanation somewhat. I don't know.
So maybe it's just birth, because birth.
Yeah, I don't want them like walking in with their baby and being like,
I think it would make sense too, because like it would essentially change their genetics.
Yeah. And our character could be like that. So like, what, you guys are just born in it? Like, do they just throw you in the fire when you're born, like a chicken nugget, like something like?
Oh my god!
Seriously,
like a chicken nugget?
Yeah, like a chicken nugget. Like they just throw you in and just pick you up after. Like what? And they're like, no, we're altered. We're all like this already. And like,
when you're born, you're just born with. If you're born this way, you're just born with the gift.
Born this way. I would. Ooh.
Or cursed, depending on how you see it.
And they could say, here is terrible one, and they go, the pregnant mothers have to go through a cleansing, like while they're pregnant they go through it. It has to be while they're pregnant, or they'd have to do the chicken nugget baby.
No, I think since you've already been altered, because the creation of a child, it is the merging, it is literally just the replication of cells.
So what if they got pregnant from someone outside? Let's say if it was one of the I'm just gonna say the daughters of the Phoenixes, and they got pregnant by a regular man. Maybe, or would you just say
I think if you have any of it,
So if you're either
tied.
sired or
If you're born into the family,
yes.
so if it's the mother who is part of the family,
Okay.
If it's the father who's part of the family, maybe
We'll just say all it takes is one parent.
one parent. I
But
like
most likely by the time the time they are pregnant, they've either because maybe there was a shotgun wedding and again they did the trial. I just don't want to. Again, I just imagine just chicken nugget baby. Sorry, I know that's so like graphic, but that's just exact. I just imagine or getting baptized by fire, like literally just welcome to the world, baby. Okay, cool, and then the baby's on fire, going whoa, like I don't know.
Personally, I don't
want
think
babies
there
on
needs
fire.
to be any ritual for the baby.
No.
I think it's
And
just
we don't,
the
and
baby
we could
is born.
just basically gloss over that with a question.
I like that idea. And
I just
we
imagine-
can leave some questions unanswered in that front because we don't need.
We don't
answer.
need to. We can just simply say, "So, what about you guys? Were you all like baptized, like Catholic, like just like a joke of that sort? Like, so what? Were you all born and had to go through a process? Just really make sure you guys didn't die till you were old enough, or what?" And they're like, "No, we're just born this way. So you've never gotten sick? Nope. You guys know what a cold is? Nope. No chicken pox? Nope. Bubonic plague? Nope." And then he like says something. Now you're just making stuff up. No. We don't get sick. We don't get nothing. We're fine. Are you vampires? Opens a curtain. No. Jeez. Close that. Like,
nothing.
no, stupid.
Does your skin sparkle in the sun?
You see sparkle in the sun? No, that could be the joke. Yeah,
I like that idea.
Yeah, they're like, so wait, are you vampires? Like, yeah. If you open that, we'll sparkle. He opens it, nothing. No, stupid. Smacks him.
I love it.
So I imagine that
I think when just to fast forward because we're running out of time for me.
Tim's on a crunch.
I am 9:30 is my bedtime. Not actually, but it's when my wife gets home.
Oh, good for you.
Anyway, I think for our main character becoming one of these, we could call it Soulforged, one of the Soulforged.
Oh, excuse me.
He basically sneaks in. Maybe he's just some kid who's like, what is going on in there? And so he sneaks in and makes his way down to the forge.
I kind of want to keep the. I don't mean to make it romantic, but here is the funny and
We could have the romance, and maybe that's how.
and I imagine that I want to keep it how it was in the dream. Meet two of the grandsons, and they got beef. They're weird. Will, you can write in why this main character was at this party. So this is probably in we're saying England, or maybe they've moved all the way to maybe they've even moved to America. They've taken the forge with them, and it was a very.
I think the forge stays where it was.
Ooh, because then
where it
they.
was put.
Okay, so they're just world famous. Their last name is the Forges. No, but goes to this banquet of theirs, gets into argument with these, grandsons, and these guys, old. Like, not old, but I would say they're probably. I'm imagining if this takes place in 2020s, I want them to be from I want them to be
I think it's 70s or 80s.
70s. So they should, and so they look great. They look like they're in their 20s, but they're still acting like.
I think they age. They just age slower.
Yeah.
So like we see some who are very young. Maybe we see a few kids, and maybe they age normal until they hit like 20.
Yeah.
Or maybe like 16 or 17, and then they start to age a lot slower.
Honestly, maybe in their 20s. I feel like a good 25ish looking. Like they once.
I just don't want it to be an in-time thing where everybody's 25.
No.
I want there
I
to
don't
be
want that
an-
again. There's a difference. I do want the uncle. So I want the father of the two sons to be a cool guy, but I want his brother to have a chip on his shoulder, and he has been messed up. Don't know from what. But I really just imagine him being played by Voldemort, and he just has beef with his brother, or he's a good guy. I don't remember what the deal was. He just had beef with his brother, so maybe the father of the two jerk faces. Point being, I just imagine, this is how I imagine we interact with one of the one of the daughters, is he gets splashed on. He's like, oh, son of a, and he like kind of hushed, and he like kind of rushes out. I don't know what this main character's doing or why he's part of it. Maybe he's studying this family. He's being like a reporter type thing, or he's investigating crime syndicate of something.
It's a university assignment.
Anything. We could make
just write a report.
Could be a reporter about a crime syndicate that's going on, and he thinks that one of these families is connected. He's noticed that there's something weird because some of them just looks the same all the time. But all I imagine is, and I will have to make up why the daughter died, but I imagine he finally like finds her, like he's like stumbling around and he sees someone go down to like wash up or something.
Maybe she helps him up, and one of the brothers pushes her and she gets hit by a car.
No, so I'm not saying no, like no. Here's how I imagine he finally stumbles upon this room. Like maybe he like just goes on, leaves. He's embarrassed. And he's kind of sneaking past servers. Maybe he snuck in as one of the servers, and they're trying to be like, take this to the room, whatever. Like take it to the back with, one of the master needs this in the back room, and he like slowly goes there, and they're like, oh, clean yourself up. Go down to the blah blah blah. And he sees a glowing blue light, and that's how he stumbles upon it. And he's like, and they're like, oh, he's like, oh. And while he's cleaning up, he hears screaming. Because when they are reborn, it's not this pleasant, like, oh boy, this is great. You come out burning and screaming. So wherever you die in the world, you will be going through this hellish process, like basically fire and brimstone. If you you're being reforged. Yeah, you're being reforged, and you come out like stock, naked and ready. So anime moment for anyone who enjoys like animes, you have to have these kind of moments. But I imagine screaming, and he stumbles and he comes in and he sees someone like in the fire, and he gets scared and he reaches in and she claws and pulls him in. And when they stumble out, again, PG-13, this will definitely be like PG-13 kind of humor. They stumble out, we don't see nothing but burned clothes or naked, whatever, and he's like, what? He's screaming, she's screaming, and one of the family, and so that's what I imagine is those two accidentally went through that process that we talked about earlier. That's what happened.
Okay, I like it.
And so now it's kind of like a big deal, and she's like, oh dang, what's wrong with you? Maybe she was at the party and she did get killed. Maybe she got taken away maybe because she was being nice to him and embarrassed one of her cousins. One of the cousins had to teach her a lesson, and he threw her off the balcony or something like that.
I think maybe more of an accident.
Oh no, Tim, these people live forever, and I know. And they don't care. Like you said, they just are reckless, and I imagine they are full on jerks about it. And when he comes, and it would be funny because one of the cousin comes downstairs and she looks at him and she goes, how many times is that now? 7 times you've killed me? And just or like a ridiculous number like that. But so are we going with they live for a long time, they just will slowly degenerate if they keep dying, and they'll lose sanity?
We could do that, and then we could have a catacombs underneath where they put all the senile, all the mind broken zombies.
So is the original forger, is he still alive?
Yeah, I think so. And I think he's still somewhat sane. I think maybe he is one of the only ones who hasn't died yet. Yep. And so he is sane. He
keeps to himself. Maybe he's off wandering. Maybe he's just a wandering man. So,
I kind of like the idea that he's...
And I would say he's the only one that was blessed with youth again, because that was directly from the Fae.
Yeah. Not from the Forge.
But his bloodline, so he became like an elf, and his bloodline slowly became this thing. So he's the only one. Is that too much of a stretch, or could you see that being fair?
No, I think that's fair.
Mr. D&D man.
I think that's fair. And maybe here's a thought. Maybe nobody likes going into catacombs because old people, they don't want to deal with.
It must be scary,
them.
and I know, and it is going to be like a analogy of what we're going to go through someday in this mortal life of old age, and it's hard for us in our youth to face it.
It's kind of my thought. I think I want the original forge worker to be at the far end of the catacombs. Like, you've got to go through winding tunnels. You've got to go down like 4 or 5 levels.
He has to find him at like the end of the second act. I want him to be at the end of the second act because I want him to kind of retell how, because maybe they're telling a different story and his story is completely different, because he doesn't see it as a curse, but he definitely got sick of the blessing after a while. He said
maybe after seeing so many of his friends die without the blessing.
Yeah, because you can't bring. He brought a few, like the Lord Ruler sort of thing, but mostly I think I would want him to be. I wanted to just to have another chance at having a family again. I didn't want my family to look at where my prosperity has gone. I just wanted a second chance at having a family again.
Mm-hmm.
This blessing kind of came too late. I would have wanted to be with my first wife and my sons and my children again. I lost them because I couldn't make weapons. The weapons that I needed. I was too late and I couldn't use the weapons. And I just imagine that there's just weapons everywhere, Tim. Like, you would love this man's home.
I'm imagining it. I'm imagining
I imagine he makes swords from all over the world. He has traveled the world. If you want a katana made by him, he can make it. If you want a broadsword made by him, you get it. If you want some strange, weird, extinct African tribe weapon, he'll make it for you. Like anything, he can make it. Any weapon you want. Because he's learned all of it. And he's pristine at all of them.
I like it. And like every single one just has such intricate designs and things, carvings and etchings, and I can imagine it.
I want him to basically I want this to be a fun take on Hephaestus. Like a cool...
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. And I know it's sad, but I just imagine he is like a Hephaestus character, just this master of a forger, but he never gets the happiness that he originally wanted. He had some things, but he just got sick of it, and he started fighting in more wars. I don't know, or maybe just the world got ahead of him, and he was like, I wasn't going to throw my lot in with guns and weapons of mass destruction. And I do imagine, I would love to see a scene of him walking through no, maybe he does. Or maybe his children helped. They just became these masters, and one of his sons is Oppenheimer. One of those things. I just imagine, like, you could see him just sitting there watching the nuke come down. Like, everyone is running around, he's just watching it come down, and it lands, and he wakes up in the forge and he's just crying at what one of his children did. He's like, I didn't want this. I didn't want my legacy to be turned into... I just wanted to protect and to be... One of his children is Iron Man. Tony Stark is a descendant from him. But I would want our character to end up either running away, something's going wrong, and at that turning point, the end of the second act. So the end of the first act would probably be him kind of adventuring with his family, but the end of the first act would probably be kind of when the twist is coming, that some of the family is twisted. End of the second act is, I don't know whether they've taken the girl that he's the granddaughter, the daughter that he's fallen in love with, or maybe they're starting to fall in love, or she rejects him, something like that, and he ends up
I think we can have some romance.
Yeah, I think that would be such a funny thing.
Let them start to fall in love.
It was such an accident because maybe they even gave her crap in front of him. Maybe she was flirting with him, and at the party, or maybe
here's an idea.
Maybe she's an old friend.
Maybe they've got. Here's an idea, and this would just add to the humor again, PG-13 humor.
Ooh.
They all have clothes that are impervious to fire. So when they die, they're just reborn in these fireproof clothes. But when he goes through, he's like, "How come I'm naked?"
I would say that's kind of a stretch, just because.
Yeah.
I would say maybe that could work, but I honestly think that it would be hilarious. That I think that them being like college friends.
Yeah, we could do that.
Or maybe he's even dating her.
Ooh.
No.
No.
Just friends.
Just friends.
But maybe he likes her, but she's kind of been like, no, my family's insane. It couldn't work out. Like maybe she was starting to, and I imagine that she is.
Maybe she invited him to the party.
Yeah, she's one of the youngest, but.
And they're just friends at this point. She invites him to the party. Maybe they're borderline something else.
Yeah.
Borderline more than friends, but not quite there.
It's either that or he met her while maybe one of those things where while studying this family and trying to investigate, he kept running into this woman around the city that they live in, and he kept like asking questions about the family, and slowly like they kept meeting. Maybe when he's trying to sneak in, this girl lets him in, like kind of winks at him like, oh, right this way, server, you go right ahead, and winks at him like she knows like darn well that he's not supposed to be there, and he's like okay. And then later on, like a fancy slow song comes on, and she goes, can I have this dance, sir? And she goes, well, you finally got in, and you're trying to discover about the Phoenix family. What are you gonna do now? You're finally in. What's next? Did you uncover some conspiracy theory? What do you think? And he's like, And then it could lead into, he's like, what is your deal? Who are you? And she goes, I'll never tell. And then that's when one of the nephews would, or one of her cousins would like mess things up. So I think that'd be good. But how would this end? I do want it to end with the ancestor, like the fight is coming around the forge, crap is like hitting the fan, regardless of, everyone's dying. It's kind of like Barbosa and Jack, two eternal beings mingle around in eternal conflict, one never wavering. What's next? Like that, that scene. That's how I imagine that's been going on. Is everyone's fighting, no one's caring, everyone's using weapons, and then you hear like and you just see this old man come up with a cane, and he's finally emerged, the original forger, and he's like, I'm done. I don't know.
Maybe his title is the Phoenix. He's the Phoenix.
He's the one. Maybe he even comes out of it. He could just comes out of the forge, stares at everybody. But he would be the only one that actually comes out with clothes. He's just learned how to, and then everyone goes, how'd you do that? No, I don't want them coming out of the forge.
No, I think
that means everyone's fighting.
I think
naked.
the catacombs are behind the forge, like the entrance to the catacombs. I think the catacombs, the entrance to it is behind the forge.
Yes.
So like you got the forge, and then you got like these two doors on either side set back into the wall that you go through, and they come to like this landing that you go down this set of stairs into, and she kind of staircases down.
So why would he end it, and what would be the consequence? So I did come up with that. My dream had that weird thing where some people, one person would get granted like eternal life, the rest would be normal, and then one person would just be black, like gone. You're just blip. You're done. There's nothing. No, just lights out. That's it. Nothing.
I think it gets to the point where we can have kind of a Cain and Abel type of thing where you got the evil brother and the good brother, they're fighting.
So do you want them to be like the sons?
I think so.
Like the first two sons?
I think so. And since they are direct, they are the sons of the Phoenix, they also don't age. Maybe every time they're reborn, these two, every time they're reborn younger. I don't know.
No, I think that's a good idea.
I think that would work.
Some of them, but it definitely filtered out to a point where the family got so how old do we want this daughter to be then?
I think she's fairly new.
I want to say like
maybe like 40 or 50, but she looks 20, mid 20s.
Oh man, he's just like, oh, so you're a cougar? Slaps it. Oh, robbing the cradle, huh? She's like, shut. You have no idea. You just quiet. You're lucky you're cute. Something like that. And he goes, you're older than my mom. Slaps him again. Age of Adeline type stuff. I love that movie too. A lot of eternal stuff. So what would cause...
I think it gets to the point where they're all trying to figure out the one side that is just sick of watching everybody that they have grown to care about die, and you've got the other side that wants to rule the world, and they're
just
fighting.
Keep what they're doing. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Keep
to
doing
us.
what they're doing. Yeah, something like that, and we could have the. I just want to say the evil brother. I want the evil brother to end up in a headlock. I'm just imagining, wrestling. He ends up in a headlock. Then the old man comes out from behind the forge.
You got Cain and Abel in my head, man. I don't know. I think one of them has to die.
Oh, and then that's what I'm thinking.
Okay,
that's what I'm thinking.
Sorry, I interrupted.
I think it ends with.
So which brother's the cripple?
The good brother.
The good brother is the one with the cane.
Mm-hmm.
So you want I can't think of his name. I'm just imagining whoever is the one that is a severe injury.
I want it to be the brother,
and he's played by Lord Voldemort.
Yeah.
And I think he could be, and he is. If anyone watched the Daniel Craig James Bond, he is M in the last two movies, and he is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And he's Alfred in Lego Batman. I think he is a good actor. Everyone might just chuckle because he's Voldemort, but and he's Ramesses, so
he is.
I won't argue.
I think so. Here's
so you want
here's how I'm imagining it.
Sorry.
The two brothers are wrestling. The good brother finally, maybe his injury gets the best of him, but he still ends up putting the other brother into a headlock, and then the old man comes upstairs and sees what's going on, looks to our main character and the girl, and basically says something about this needs to end, and it can only end with me. And he walks into the fire, and maybe the main character's been shot, and so he's dying, but he doesn't die before the forge is shut down. So we have this intense moment where the very last person who is revived through the forge is our main character, and he comes crawling out, and he gets put a cloak over his shoulders, and then we see some people, we see a few more people die, but they don't, quote unquote, respawn. They don't come back through the forge. And it can just be this kind of somber moment where immortality is gone, and they got to make do with what they've got now. I want one of the brothers. I don't care if it's the good brother or the evil brother. Probably the evil brother is going to end up getting killed.
I want the scene, and I'm sorry, you said Cain and Abel, and now I can't get it out of my head. I want so maybe with the brothers, I want maybe what happens is good brother finally pins the brother with the bad leg, the brother who is crippled, the Abel we can say that Abel finally gets the upper hand of Cain, the abusive older brother. And I would want him to finally like pin him down, and there's a split moment where roles are reversed, and you see him reach out and he grabs, and I'm gonna pull out Bible story here, grabs a trunk of rock, and as he goes, he lifts it up, and you just see the evil brother spit out blood on the floor and goes, "I am my brother's keeper," and slams, and you see the good brother start slamming his head, and then that's when we hear the thudding, we hear steps come up the forge stairs, and you just see the father heartbroken because he doesn't really, he's getting old, he's getting senile, not really, but he's getting there. And he's looking at it, and once again he goes, "My boys killing themselves again. It never ends with you two, doesn't it?" And finally though, we have the older brother just on the ground, like, and it's a sad sight. This is not what the good brother wanted. This isn't what anyone wanted, but since it's just gotten to this point of, it's just this harrowing moment. I want it to be this harrowing, like the crowd is like, "Oh, that was a little much," and that's like the father is like, "I'm done."
The brother's crying.
Yeah, the good brother looks at like what he's become and what it's doing to them, and I just imagine the father, like, no one's ever been able to like turn off the forge. No one knows how. It's something like magical, you could say.
I like the idea of the father going into the forge to
I
shut
want
it
the
off.
Fae to appear next to him.
Oh.
The Fae child appears next to him, and she's like holding his hand, and she's like, "You sure?" And he's like, "Yes." And
It's time.
It's time. And then we slowly just see it simmer out and just puff, and everyone else like, "Ah, ah." And we just see all these, like, and you just see many of the families covered up, and I imagine they do have a bunch of robes. We see many of them are like hiding. Man, we're getting like Adam and Eve all up in this, because a lot of them are like hiding. They're like putting these robes on, they're all looking at each other, and the forge is over, and we see like, and I want that as the fire goes out, there's quiet, and you hear the evil brother just and like final breath goes out, and everyone stares and looks. Nothing. No rebirth. No nothing. And you see, like, good brother gets up on his cane, stands up, and I don't know what happened next. I don't know. That is, I think it might be one of those moments where we just see him stand up. I could honestly see, and you all might be mad, I think the ending might just be him, our main character. We haven't even named the guy.
No, we haven't.
We've just been very bland with you guys, but I just imagine him bundling up the daughter, and it just shows them stumbling out, and that might be it.
I think we see them starting a family, and it's a normal family. They have normal jobs, they're living a normal life. And we can do the cliche narration. There was a time where gods walked among men and fought and killed each other time after time, and those days are over, and now we just live normal lives. Now we have to. Ooh. Now we live like those that we've watched die over and over. Something like that, and we see him. The kids come home from school, and they pin up. They put a painting up on the fridge of the family, and it's just a. And maybe the painting's got like a phoenix in the background.
You know what would be cute?
It's like, what's that? And he's like, it's our family.
Oh, and you know what would be really cute is there's a knock at the door, and all we're gonna hear is just knock on the door, and then the door open. We don't see it. We see the kids run off. We open the door, and we don't see who's at the door, and we're gonna hear them though, and we hear Grandpa, and we hear the good son say, "Hello, children"?
I think we see him.
You want to see
I think
him?
we see him. He's got
And you can see, and it would be
he's got
because it would be like the rest of them. Like it's a huge family.
I think he's got like, Carl Fredricksen cane, the four-legged cane, and he hobbles in, and But I think we've got
they do.
him.
You know, it'd be cute. It'd be man, I don't know how we could just say like many years later, and we'd show the family her and him are getting their kids all dressed up, and they're like, it's a family reunion, just get ready, it'll be cute, it'll be fun, and we see them like gather, and it's just they're huge, and like the family has like healed. We see like one of the good nephews, we see all of them, they all have like a purpose now, they're all like, this is our last thing of life. We see that many of them have wisened up, some of them have, I don't know. I think it would be cute though if the final moment is like a picture and it's just this big family reunion. Like for anyone who's thinking about like the stereotypical like Utah family reunions, because we're known for having big families here, just imagine that. That'd be hilarious. Just a big family picture. And it'd be cute though, because I imagine they're so old and some of them have gone and traveled across the world. There's many, it would be cute to see people of many different ethnicities in this family because they've gotten that big. That's how much this family has touched it. So it'd just be cute to just have this big family picture. And I'm talking like 400 people. And that'd be the ending. It would just be cute. Yeah. And that would be, because it would be cool that during this movie we've never seen like the whole family together. They were never a unified family, because that's not what he wanted. He wanted his family to be together, but because they got so big, they separated. They weren't a family. I know we're starting to sound like Fast and Furious, but
it's all about family.
It's all about family. But I think that'd be cute. And I do want one scene. I want the jerk brother. And we don't really realize which one is which. We kind of get the feeling like Severus Snape kind of with the crippled brother, like that sort of deal. We think that he's kind of the jerk. But I do want one point to have the older, very well taken care of brother. Like I want them to show that he's been beating his brother his whole life. Cain and Abel always had the upper hand. I actually want him to have a painting of Cain killing Abel. Because that would just be the parallels.
All right, let's do it.
But yeah,
let's have
I think this will be. So, what did you want to name this one?
I was thinking Soulbound.
Soulbound.
Soulforged.
Soulforged. I like Soulforged.
Or Soulmade.
Soulforged. I think Soulforged is the.
I like it.
I think Soulforged would be a good.
Or
title.
just Soulforge. One of the two.
One of the two. I think Soulforge I think Soulforged. I think it just gives.
I think you're right.
Gives it gives the idea that they are forging their souls. They're forging something special. I love it. Ooh, well, that's a different place than I thought, and we didn't really get to do much. And I'm glad that we kind of kept it as a very rough draft. We didn't give any names. We didn't really give any filler. We just kind of gave a beginning, middle, and end. And hopefully, and I always say this, hopefully we will type these up, and someday, hopefully before the end of this year, you guys will have a few of these stories that you could just listen to, just read out by one of us, and you'll just get
maybe
like
get a cast.
That's
could be fun.
That's going to be for maybe next year, but by the end of this year, one of us can just read it, or we just take turns. I don't know, but there you go, everybody. That is Soulforged. I thank you, Tim. Thanks for taking that dream, and that was.
Thanks for having the dream,
dude. I know. I was like, this was
that.
I think that turned cool. I think it could have a lot of funny moments, a lot of creepy moments. I think it has a lot of potential, and I'm glad we didn't dive too much. I'm glad we got a beginning, middle, and an end. And I hope to revisit this one day. But yeah, thanks everybody. So I'll let Tim lead us off.
Yeah. Again, that was a lot of fun. Thank you all for listening. As always, love each other. Be kind. Try to be the person that you would want to be at the end of 1,000 years. And we'll see you later, pitches.
Bye.